Global business players and leaders of nations gathered at Riyadh for the 2024 Special World Economic Forum meeting to address and share vision to achieving global growth rate of 3.2% as against the initial rate of 4% before COVID-19 pandemic. With the meeting focusing on global collaboration, growth and energy for development, leaders emphasized the need to have determination to have strong fundamentals for growth and inclusiveness in all policies, as no one should be left behind. During the open plenary for the meeting, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu shares the strategy Nigeria has taken to ensure growth while calling for collaboration in order to achieve the projected growth rate.
For Nigeria, we are immensely consistent with our belief that the economic collaboration and inclusiveness is necessary to engender stability in the rest of the world. Concerning the question of the subsidy removal, there's no doubt that it was a necessary action for my country not to go bankrupt. One, to reset the economy and the pathway to growth. It is going to be difficult, but the hallmark of leadership is taking difficult decisions at the time it ought to be taken decisively. That was necessary for the country. Yes, there will be blowback. There is expectation that the difficulty in it will be felt by a greater number of the people. But once, I believe it was their interest that is the focus of the government. It is easier to manage and explain the difficulties. Along the line, there is a parallel arrangement to really cushion the effect of the subsidy removal on the vulnerable population of the country. We share the pain across board. We cannot but include those who are very vulnerable. Luckily, we have a very vibrant, youthful population interested in discoveries by themselves and highly ready for technology, good education, committed to growth. We were able to manage that and partition the economic drawback and the fallout of the subsidy removal. Equally, it engendered transparency, accountability, and physical discipline for the country. And that's, to me, is more important to focus on what direction we should go. Today's forum is equally valuable for us to share experiences and share the hope of the future. What is missing? And I'm glad the kingdom rely on the window, the word collaboration and inclusiveness. The capital formation that is necessary to drive the economy, like agriculture, food security, innovation, technology advancement must be an inclusive program of the entire world. No one should be left behind. The fear of lack of capital in Africa, stigmatization, and I'm glad the world is recognizing the need that the type of population growth that Africa is experiencing, the diversity of its resources, must be married with its economic opportunity. We must collaborate to do that.
While others on the panel share their insight on what needs to be done to achieve the new growth projections for global development.
What is necessary? First, to differentiate, there are countries that can carry the debt and it is not a danger to them unless, however, they are mindful, it may become a danger. And you mentioned the United States, deficit is high, there has to be thinking about fiscal path that brings it down. But there are countries where the debt burden is already far too high. And in these countries, we do need to offer a helping hand with that restructuring. We looked at the measures in the hands of policymakers. If we were to re-energize trade, if we were to get flow of capital to go where capital would bring highest returns, and if we were to build even stronger governance, within this decade, we can get 1.2% higher growth. In other words, we get to what we had historically. So that whole issue about fragmentation in the world economy is really serious. Trade and financial flows are the transmission lines of prosperity, and it would be a huge mistake to lose them. So focus on that. And my second point is taking from the President of Nigeria, reforms that are mindful of the vulnerable people in society. The Prime Minister of Egypt is here. Reforms pay off very, very well. So if we can have that leadership strength within countries to do the right thing and across countries to work together, the optimists in the room would say we are right.
Now, two things have to happen. The rest of the world have got to see that this is an important place to invest with and invest in. That's one. Second is for Africa itself to avoid any victim mentality and start raising ourselves to the level where we should be. In fact, where we are, that we are a very important geographical part of our world, and with a lot of resources. It's not just natural resources, it's the people at the same time. So I think being reasonable, seeing things for what they are, and then being upfront in fighting for the rights, therefore, maybe we shall be able to narrow the divide, but Africa has a very important place.
I think the threat is not necessarily to growth, but rather to inequality and inclusion.
Yep.
There is major risk, for example, from the biotech revolution that the growing gap in life expectancy. In the United States, for example, something like 2/3 of the American population has had flat to declining life expectancy over the past 25 years, while the very most advantaged socioeconomic groups have seen dramatic increases in life expectancy. It's not hard to imagine that being exacerbated by the new technology. So I think many of the points that have already been raised about the need for inclusive growth is the key part, as opposed to whether there'll be growth. And then one final point, which is everyone here is currently in a region that has a major advantage as do the countries on this panel, the leaders of the countries on this panel, relative to many other places in the world, which has to do with demography. And we haven't touched upon that. The total fertility rate globally has fallen in half, and the share of the population over age 65 has doubled since 1950. Yep. Those areas that have, and by the way, don't allow yourself to fall into the trap of very low fertility rates and thinking that they can increase. I think the experience in China has shown that the move away from the one-child policy really hasn't worked. So it's a huge advantage to have a dynamic population, and that's one of the reasons why at least I'm excited to be here, and to be on this panel with many of the leaders of countries that have that dynamism, because that's a major advantage going forward.
In conclusion, members of the panel across board submit to the fact that there must be intentional and urgent action for growth.
For more on well-researched and balanced stories, events and interviews across business, tech innovation and lifestyle, please like, share and subscribe to this channel, www.youtube.com/Digivation Network.